Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to share something a little different, something that's been on my mind for a while now. I need you to do something for me right now. Think about the last time someone told you that you can't afford a house because you buy coffee or avocado toast, or you have a Netflix subscription. Think about how that felt. That anger you felt, that frustration, that sense of, this person has no idea what they're talking about. You were right. And today I'm going to prove it with math so clear, so undeniable, that you'll never let anyone gaslight you about your financial situation again. Here's the thing. There's this whole industry of personal finance gurus, talking heads on the news, and that one uncle at Thanksgiving who genuinely believe that the reason millennials and Gen Z can't buy houses is because they're frivolous. They buy fancy coffee. They eat out too much. They have expensive phones. And if you just cut back, made your coffee at home, stopped buying those little luxuries, you'd be fine. You'd have a house, a savings account, a retirement fund. The math is simple, they say. Stop being irresponsible. Except it's not simple, and it's not true. And I'm going to show you exactly what changed when it changed, and why your grandparents could buy a house on a single income, while you're working 2 jobs and still can't afford rent. This isn't about personal responsibility. This is about structural economic changes that fundamentally broke the system. And once you see the numbers, you can't unsee them. Let me tell you about Jake. He's 32, works in marketing, makes $55,000 a year. That's actually above the median income in the US. He's not poor. He's doing what society told him to do. He went to college, got a degree, got a job, works hard. He doesn't buy fancy coffee every day. He meal preps. He has roommates to save on rent. He drives a 10-year-old car. He's doing everything right, according to the personal finance advice. And yet, he cannot afford to buy a house in the city where his job is. Not even close. His boomer parents bought their first house in 1985. His dad was a middle manager, making about $38,000 a year. That house cost $95,000. They bought it with a 10% down payment. 1 income, 3 kids. They weren't rich. They were average. And they bought a house. Jake's looking at houses in the same neighborhood, comparable size. They're now worth $650,000. His $55,000 salary, which is higher than what his dad made adjusted for inflation, can't even get him in the door. The bank laughs at him. And somewhere on the internet, someone's writing an article about how Jake's generation just needs to stop buying iPhones. Here's what I'm going to show you today. The math has fundamentally changed. The relationship between wages and cost of living has broken. Housing costs have increased 400%. Education costs have increased 500%. Healthcare costs have increased 600%. And wages? Wages have increased about 20% in real terms. The game isn't just harder. The game has completely different rules. And blaming personal spending habits is like blaming someone for drowning when you've filled the pool with concrete. Let's run the actual numbers, because this is where it gets wild. We're going to compare 2 people. Person A is Jake's dad in 1985. Person B is Jake in 2024. Both are trying to buy their first house. Both have median jobs for their education level. Let's see what they're actually dealing with. Person A, 1985. Median household income was $27,000. Median home price was $82,000. That means the median home cost 3.0 times the median annual income. To save a 10% down payment of $8,200, they needed to save about 30% of 1 year's gross income. Tight, but doable. Mortgage payments at about 10% interest would be around $720 a month, which is about 32% of gross monthly income. Again, tight but within the standard lending guidelines. Person B, 2024. Median household income is about $74,000. Median home price is $416,000. That means the median home now costs 5.6 times the median annual income. nearly double the ratio. To save a 10% down payment of $41,600, they need to save 56% of 1 year's gross income. And that's assuming they can save it all after rent, student loans, healthcare, and food. But wait, it gets worse. Let's factor in the other costs that have exploded. In 1985, the average college degree cost about $11,000 for 4 years at a public university. In 2024, it's over $45,000. That's a 310% increase, while wages only went up about 70% in that same period. So Jake's starting his career with $45,000 in student debt that his dad never had. Healthcare. In 1985, the average annual healthcare cost per person was about $1,600. In 2024, it's over $14,000. That's a 775% increase. Jake's paying $300 a month for health insurance with a $6,000 deductible. His dad paid maybe $60 a month with full coverage. Let's put this all together in a monthly budget comparison. Person A in 1985, making $27,000 a year. That's about $2,250 a month gross. Mortgage, $720. Healthcare, $60. Car payment on a reliable used car, maybe $150. No student loans. Food for a family, around $300. Utilities, about $100. That leaves about $920 for everything else: savings, retirement, emergencies. Tight, but workable. Person B in 2024, making $55,000 a year. That's about $4,580 a month gross. But they can't buy a house yet, so rent for a one-bedroom apartment, $1,800. Healthcare, $300. Student loan payment, $400. Car payment, $350. Food, $400. Utilities, $150. That's $3,400 already. They're left with $1,180 gross. But after taxes, it's more like $700 for everything else. Saving for that $41,000 down payment? At $700 a month, that's 58 months, almost 5 years, assuming zero emergencies, zero unexpected costs, zero life happening. But here's the kicker. While person B is saving for 5 years, housing prices are increasing at about 6% annually. That $416,000 house? In 5 years, it'll be worth $557,000. The down payment needed will be $55,700. They literally cannot save fast enough. The target is moving faster than they can run. This is the hamster wheel, and it's not because Jake bought a latte. Let's do the coffee math just to put this absurdity to rest. An $8 latte every single day for a year is $2,920. If Jake never bought coffee again, saved every penny, that gets him 7% of the way to his down payment. In 5 years of zero coffee, he'd have $14,600. He still needs $27,000 more. The math doesn't math. The latte is a rounding error in a systemic problem. So what happened? How did we go from a system where average people could afford houses to a system where even above average earners are priced out? The answer is a combination of policy decisions, economic shifts, and what economists call cost disease. Let's break down each piece. First, housing. In 1985, the population of the U.S. was about 238 million. Today, it's 335 million. We added 97 million people. But we didn't add 97 million housing units. We added restrictions, zoning laws got stricter. NIMBYism, not in my backyard, became the default political position in every city. Building permits became harder to get. Environmental reviews added years to construction. All of this is well-intentioned, but the result is a massive supply shortage. When demand goes up and supply stays flat, prices explode. Econ 101. But here's the part nobody talks about. Existing homeowners benefit from this. If you bought a house in 1985 for $95,000 and it's now worth $650,000, you just made $500,000 by doing nothing. You have a massive incentive to keep housing prices high. You vote against new construction. You oppose zoning changes. You protect neighborhood character. You're not evil, you're rational. But your rational self-interest is pricing out the next generation. The system rewards people who already have assets and punishes people trying to get in. Second, wages. Productivity has increased 77% since 1979. That means workers are producing 77% more value per hour than they were. If wages had kept pace with productivity, the median wage would be about $92,000 instead of $55,000. But they didn't keep pace. That extra value went somewhere, and it went to corporate profits and executive compensation. The share of GDP going to labor has declined. The share going to capital has increased. This isn't a conspiracy, it's policy. Union membership declined from 25% in 1980 to 10% today. Unions were the mechanism that forced wages to track productivity. Without them, workers lost leverage. Minimum wage in 1985 was $3.35. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $9.37 today. The actual minimum wage is $7.25. We went backwards. And even if minimum wage matched inflation, it wouldn't matter because inflation doesn't capture housing, healthcare, and education costs, which are the actual things squeezing people. Third, cost disease. This is the big one. Economist William Baumol identified this phenomenon. In some sectors, productivity gains lead to lower prices. Technology gets cheaper. Manufacturing gets more efficient. But in other sectors, productivity gains are limited, and prices rise faster than inflation. Healthcare, education, and housing are the big three. You can't educate a student twice as fast. You can't perform surgery in half the time. You can't make land where there isn't any. These sectors have structural reasons why they resist productivity gains, but we still need them, so prices rise. Healthcare costs have exploded because we've added layers of administrative costs, insurance companies taking their cut, pharmaceutical companies charging whatever they want, and a political system that refuses to negotiate prices. Other countries have nationalized healthcare and pay half what we do. We chose the expensive path. Education costs exploded because state funding for public universities collapsed. In 1985, states covered about 70% of the cost of public universities. Today, it's about 25%. Students now pay the difference. Universities didn't get greedier. The funding model changed. And student loans made it possible to charge more because students could afford it by going into debt. The system created a debt trap and called it opportunity. Housing we already covered, but here's the policy piece. The mortgage interest deduction is a subsidy for homeowners. It cost the federal government about $25 billion last year. That's $25 billion that mostly benefits people who already own homes and does nothing for renters trying to buy. We subsidize ownership and wonder why renters can't afford to buy. Here's the fourth factor nobody mentions. Financialization. Housing used to be a place to live. Now it's an investment asset. Private equity firms, real estate investment trusts, foreign investors, they're all buying up housing as assets. BlackRock and similar firms have bought hundreds of thousands of single-family homes. They're not buying them to live in. They're buying them to rent out or hold as appreciating assets. This increases demand and reduces supply for actual people who want to live in them. When Wall Street competes with families for housing, Wall Street wins. All of these factors compound. Wages stagnate. Costs explode. Assets become investments. And the people trying to enter the system face a game with fundamentally different rules than their parents faced. This isn't about avocado toast. This is about 40 years of policy decisions that prioritized asset holders over workers, capital over labor, and short-term profits over long-term stability. All right, real talk time. I just spent 15 minutes explaining why the system is broken. And you might be thinking, great, so I'm screwed and it's not my fault. That's comforting but not helpful. Fair, so let's talk about what you can actually do, both individually and collectively, because both matter. Individual strategies first. If you're trying to buy a house and the market you're in is insane, you have a few options. 1. Move. I know. Your job is here. Your family is here. Your life is here. But if home ownership is the goal, moving to a lower cost of area might be the only math that works. Remote work has made this more possible. A $55,000 salary goes a lot further in Columbus, Ohio than in San Francisco. I'm not saying you should move. I'm saying run the math and decide if staying is worth never owning. 2. House hacking. Buy a multi-unit property, live in one unit, rent out the others. FIA loans let you do this with as little as 3.5% down. The rental income covers most of your mortgage. You're building equity while your tenants pay your mortgage. It's not glamorous. You're a landlord now. But it's a path to ownership that wasn't available to previous generations, who could just buy a single-family home outright. 3. Increase income aggressively. You already knew this was coming, but here's the thing. The system rewards income, not hard work. Job hopping every 2 to 3 years increases your salary faster than loyalty. Learning high-demand skills, coding, data analysis, project management, increases your market value. Starting a side business, even a small one, diversifies your income. The goal is to outpace the cost increases. It's not fair that you have to do this, but it's reality. 4. Optimize your debt. Refinance your student loans if rates dropped. Pay off high interest debt first. Don't take on new debt for depreciating assets. This is basic, but it matters. Every dollar you save on interest is a dollar toward your down payment. 5. Invest in assets, even small amounts. If you can't buy a house yet, don't just save cash. Inflation is eating it. Put money in index funds, a Roth IRA, something that grows. The system rewards people who own assets. Even small asset ownership compounds over time. Now collective action. Because individual action alone won't fix structural problems. Vote. Vote for people who support zoning reform, who want to build more housing, who support union rights, who want to raise minimum wage, who will regulate private equity's buying of single-family homes. Housing policy is local. Show up to city council meetings. Oppose NIMBYism. Support new construction. Even if it doesn't help you directly, it helps the system. Support unions. Whether you're in one or not, unions are the mechanism that kept wages tied to productivity. Their decline is directly correlated with wage stagnation. If you can join one, do. If you can't, support them politically. Demand student debt reform. The current system is unsustainable. Other countries have free or low-cost college. We can too. It's a political choice, not an economic impossibility. Talk about this. Share this video. The personal responsibility narrative thrives when people think they're failing individually. But when we all realize the game changed, that the rules are different, we can demand better rules. Boomers didn't have it easier because they were better people. They had it easier because the economic structure was different. We can change the structure. Here's the thing I need you to understand. You're not failing. The system is failing you. Your grandparents bought houses on single incomes, not because they were more responsible, but because houses cost 3 times annual income instead of 6 times. Because college was affordable. Because healthcare didn't bankrupt people. Because wages kept pace with productivity. The math was different. And when someone tells you that you can't afford a house because you buy coffee, they're either ignorant of the actual numbers or they're gaslighting you to protect a system that benefits them. The $8 latte didn't make you poor. Wage stagnation made you poor. Housing supply restrictions made you poor. Financialization of housing made you poor. The collapse of union power made you poor. The defunding of public education made you poor. Healthcare costs made you poor. These are policy choices. They can be changed. So here's what I want you to do. First, run your own numbers. Figure out what you're actually dealing with. How much do you need for a down payment? How long will it take at your current savings rate? Is the math possible? If not, what needs to change? Income, location, timeline? Be honest about the reality. Second, stop letting people shame you for systemic problems. You're not irresponsible because you can't afford a house. You're living in an economy where the median house costs 6 times the median income. That's not a personal failure. That's a market failure. Third, make one change this month. Apply for a higher paying job. Negotiate your salary at your current job. Start learning a new skill. Look at houses in a different market. Join a local housing advocacy group. Do something. Individual action alone won't fix this, but combined with collective pressure, it moves the needle. And finally, stay angry. Not bitter, not hopeless, but angry. Because anger is fuel. The system counts on you feeling like a failure, like it's your fault, like you're not working hard enough. But now you know the truth. You know the numbers. You know what changed. You know it's structural. That knowledge is power. Use it. You deserve the same shot your grandparents had. You deserve a system where hard work leads to stability. You deserve housing that costs 3 times your income, not 6. You deserve education that doesn't bury you in debt. You deserve wages that match your productivity. You deserve all of that. And the fact that you don't have it isn't because of an $8 latte. It's because the system changed, and nobody asked you if that was okay. So let's change it back. Let's demand better. Let's build a system that works for people trying to get in, not just people who already won. And let's stop letting anyone tell us that our struggles are because we're irresponsible. We're not. We're just playing a rigged game. Time to change the rules. I'll see you in the next one.